Hello everyone, it's DTM Free Practice 2 here at the Nürburgring, this beautiful part of Germany. And we've got there in the background the famous Nürburgring Castle. It's a ruined hilltop castle built in the Middle Ages, dates all the way back to the 1100s. It was thought to be used as a signal station in Roman times to protect what was an important Roman road that ran through this part of Germany. Stands within the famous North Loop, the Nordschleife, which of course is all around us here. The what was 12.9 mile or 20.8 kilometre long former Grand Prix circuit, still used as a venue for the Nürburgring 24-hour race and various endurance races. And here the more modern Grand Prix circuit that was built as part of it, as a side of it. We've got 12 corners on the sprint version of the circuit we're using. Compare that with the Nordschleife, which at its peak had 174 bends over 22.8 kilometres. The 1950s famous Formula One venue. Some greats have won here. And it was the three-time Formula One world champion, Sir Jackie Stewart, that nicknamed the old track the Green Hell because of the treacherous nature of the circuit in those times of Formula One. But we're here on the more modern version of the circuit, which joins to the Nordschleife, and using the sprint version of it, as we have done so many times before in the DTM. We were here last year on 2 occasions, used for the first time in DTM, the Grand Prix, the modern Grand Prix circuit, which was a successful weekend. That was the first of back-to-back weekends here in the middle of the season, and then came back the following weekend and used this shorter sprint version of the circuit. Kelvin van der Linde, the driver that leads the championship, coming into this 4th weekend of the season. We'll be at the halfway point after the Nürburgring in this 8-weekend, 16-race 2021 championship. I'm Chris Hartley. I'm going to talk you through the 45-minute free practice session that is coming up, and coming up soon as well, as the clock begins to tick down now. At 3:30 we'll start in just over 2 minutes' time. And then, of course, we look forward to qualifying and race 1 tomorrow, and qualifying 2 and race 2 on Sunday. There is one of the new faces on the grid, but a very well-known racer, not just here in Germany, but internationally, the 3-time Porsche Super Cup champion, Michael Ammermuller, who has come into DTM for this first weekend in what's a new team, a relatively new team as well, the SSR Performance Squad, which was only founded as a company 5 years ago. Only started racing full-time last year, and its first attempt took the ADAC GT Masters Championship with Michael as one of the drivers. They're leading that championship as well this year, and Michael Ammermuller was very good in the first free practice session earlier on. Liam Lawson going out early, took his time going out in the first free practice session, but he is joining the queue pretty early on. There is the number 30 Ferrari, the Red Bull AlphaTauri AF Corsa run machine. 4th in the queue behind Michael Ammermuller, who's going to be first out. Arjun Maini, who was quick in free practice 1, is going to be second out. And the third car, slightly obscured there, that you can see in the line, is another newcomer and another impressive first free practice session it was for Lucas Stoltz, the Top Sport WRT Mercedes number 7, which was for the first half of the session at least at the top of the times. And there's a typical view of the skyline here at this Nürburgring circuit. Blue, grey, white and black clouds all rolled into one, because the weather is totally unpredictable here. It wasn't due to rain at all today, but we did have a little bit of rain at the end of the first free practice session, right at the closing 2 minutes or so of the session. It rained for a while afterwards, but you could see that it wasn't going to last long because there were breaks in the cloud. It went away. Sunshine replaced it in the couple of hours that we've had since free practice 1. More rain came. That went away. It's actually pretty bright and sunny now, but always with the threat of these dark clouds up and above. So if you want dry running in, then you'll be keen to get out early just in case it comes back. And that's certainly what Michael Ammermuller is doing here at a press conference just about half an hour or so ago with Michael Ammermuller. We had Esme Hawkey, Marcus Winkelhock and Zolder race winner Marco Vittman all in the press conference. As the session goes live, 45 minutes underway, Ammermuller heads out onto the track in the Porsche's first weekend ever in the DTM. Now, you're right, if you were watching free practice earlier, you may remember there was a little glitch at one point for Ammermuller, where the car just lost drive and he crawled into the pit lane. But almost as soon as he came into the pit lane, you could hear the car roaring back into life. And he was asked about that in the press conference, and Alan Muller said it's not a problem. It's not something we're worried about coming back to haunt us. It was a safe system. So it was when he was downshifting between two gears, just an emergency safe system kicked in and prevented him changing gear, but he reset the system, got it quickly back into gear, then checked it over, and he went back out and was pretty quick thereafter as well. So he wasn't worried about that at all. He's, as I say, currently leading the ADAC GT Masters Championship in this same car, but one point that he did make, which is well worth relaying, is the fact that in the GT Masters series they use a different tyre. They use Pirelli tyres, whereas we use Michelin tyres these days in DTM. So that's the biggest thing for him to get used to, how the car reacts differently, and it does make a huge difference because the tyre is the thing that connects the car to the road, and that will be important learning in this session, not just for single lap pace but for longer runs as well, as Kelvin van der Linde, the championship leader, heads out onto this 3.6 kilometre long circuit, which is dry for now, sun out. Alan Muller has just gone past me, and he's building up speed. Arjun Maini in that train as well. So to remind you of how it went in free practice 1, we had several drivers breaking into the 1:27. The quickest lap was set by Vincent Abril, the Monegasque driver in the bright yellow number 5 HRT run Mercedes. And the best time from earlier was 1:27.480. He was 96 thousandths of a second quicker than Luca Stoltz for the TalkSport WRT team, who, as I say, was quickest for the first half of the session. He set his best time way back on the 4th lap of free practice 1. So they were the quickest 2. And then it was another newcomer to DTM, but another very experienced GT racer, Christopher Haas, the German driver, who has been a very late replacement at Team Rosberg in the number 12 Audi. So Dev Gore, the 23-year-old American, was due to race, but he's had to sit this one out for personal reasons. The plan is that he'll come back for the next round at Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. But they've got a very good replacement in Christopher Haas, who knows the Audi R8 very well indeed, and was 3rd quickest this morning with a 1:27.687. And then the aforementioned Michael Ammermuller for SSR Performance, putting Porsche 4th on their debut, 1:27.743 seconds this morning. That was just 8 thousandths of a second quicker than Christian Klein in the JP Motorsport McLaren in their second DTM weekend. And he was only 4 thousandths of a second quicker than Daniel Gadea, who set an early time of 1:27.755 in the Gruppe M Racing bright pink number 8 Mercedes. Nico Müller was 7th, Arjun Maini was 8th, and they were the 8 drivers to break the 1:28 second barrier, with Liam Lawson 2nd in the championship, 9th, and fellow teenager Esteban Moot 10th quickest. Kelvin van der Linde, the championship leader, was down the order at the start of the session, crept up into, I think, 7th or 8th at one point, then dropped back a bit, then in the end finished in 11th place, Kelvin van der Linde. So we heard him on the radio in the middle of the session saying, look, we need to try something different with the setup. It's something drastic's got to happen. We're not quick enough. Michael Ammermuller said earlier on that he wasn't yet quick enough, so that's why he's keen to get out, even though he set that very good time to be 4th quickest in free practice 1. The spectacles German Bavaria driver then out on track. One of the onboard cameras he carries this weekend for us, and making his way through the Mercedes arena. It's a very twisty first part of the lap. The lap is divided up into 3 sectors. Sector 1 takes you from the start line through that first twisty section at the Mercedes arena, through turns 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, through the hairpin at turn 6, which is where they shortcut from the Grand Prix circuit, and then coming out of turn 6, that's the end of sector 1. So it's a very long first sector of around about 44 seconds, pretty much half of the lap. Sector 2 then takes in the run through turn 7, the Kumo curve, the big curve at 8 as they build up speed through the very quick right-hander at Becksbogen at turn 9, and that's the second sector. Before then, the third sector, that's only about 22 seconds, and 22 seconds as well for the third short sector, which just takes in the Vidal chicane at turns 10 and 11, and the final corner, the right-hander at Coca-Cola curve, turn number 12. So 44 seconds around about for the first sector, and 22 each for sectors 2 and 3. The Hubert Haupt, who was up in the top 10 for a while in the third of the HRT Mercedes. There he is, number 6, the Playboy liveried car. And Hubert, who's the team boss, now 52 years of age, first made his inaugural DTM campaign appearance back in the early 1990s, 91 and 92. He drove for Audi, and then came back in 2001 for a season with Opel. So 30 years since he made his DTM debut. 20 years since he was last in the DTM. He comes back, but he's looked very competitive indeed. Now, Kelvin van der Linde with a good start to the session here. 1:27.820 seconds. That's far and away his best laps so far today. Earlier on, he did a 1:28.09, so 2/10 up. However, Christian Klein has been very impressive so far. The ex-Grand Prix racer, the Austrian, in the number 15 McLaren, he's set the absolute best first sector time, 44.609. It's only a smidgen quicker than van der Linde, 3,000ths quicker than him. And he's a bit down in the second sector, so clean up in the first sector. Van der Linde on a really good second sector, though. But it's that first sector that's keen. There's almost nothing between them, 3,000ths of a second. Arjun Mainy's got top of the times. He did a 44.6 in that first sector as well. Clean second with a 1:27.797. That's just 9,000ths of a second behind Arjun Mainy. But Kelvin van der Linde might be having to say something about this as well, because he's done another 44.6 through the first sector. It's not an absolute best, but it's very close. It's one of the best first sector times so far. And Timo Glock's had a decent run in the BMW. Didn't see much for the BMWs in the first free practice session, but Timo's done a 1:28.3 to go 6th quickest for now. Daniel Hunkedaer not going to be too far away. He'll be somewhere towards the top 6 if you can hold it together through the final sector. The first sector was pretty good, and it is 6th place. So Hunkedaer with a 1:28.315. Mainy's quickest, Klein is second. Van der Linde backed off through the middle sector, so it's not going to be a quick lap after all, although it started pretty well for Kelvin. So he'll stay 3rd. Lucas Auer is 4th, Liam Lawson 5th. Hunkedaer with that lap going to 6th. Timo Glock 7th. Lucas Stoltz 8th. Max Scott's 9th. And Philip Ellis currently in 10th place. We've yet to see a lap from Vincent Abril, who was quickest this morning, or from Esteban Moot, or from Marco Vittman, or Christopher Haas. So they're the drivers that have been out but yet to set a proper flying lap. Nico Müller has just put in a lap of 1:28.8, going to 12th place. And there is his new teammate for the weekend, or one of his teammates. Number 12 car, which is Christopher Haas, still trying to work his way through a lap, but actually the first sector is a personal best, but still not great from Christopher. So he's building up speed, but he's starting to put some times together now. Timo Glock, better again, with 2 personal bests and an absolute best in the middle sector. So he goes 6th now, back into the top 6, and the best of the BMWs by a long way. Michael Ammermuller has just gone back up into 4th place, where he finished free practice 1 with a 1:27.825. So already 4 drivers beneath the 1:28 bracket. Max Scott's on a decent lap here as well. It's not going to be absolute best, but would be a personal best, I think, if he holds it together. Nico Müller, likewise, just under the 45-second bracket, but he's about 3/10 down on the absolute best through sector 1. He's about a 10th down through sector 2. Kelvin van der Linde, meanwhile, has found the rhythm. He's gone to the top of the times with a 1:27.763. That's 25,000ths of a second quicker than Arjun Mainy. Christian Klein 3rd, Michael Ammermuller in 4th, Lucas Auer 5th. It's almost like a qualifying session now, this. So Kelvin van der Linde, best in sector 2. I think Ammermuller is quickest in sector 1 so far. Yes, he is. Then Kelvin van der Linde is best in sector 2. Liam Lawson's actually got the best sector 3 time so far. So nobody's yet hooked together the perfect lap as Lucas Auer goes back into 5th place. Ammermuller absolute best in the first and second sectors now. Only by fractions of a second, but this should be a 1:27.7 or 1:27.6 if he can just keep it together through the Coca-Cola curve, which he's attacking now through the final turn at turn 12, on board with the Porsche, running the curbs, staying on the accelerator, going up through the gears, heading for the line, and he goes quickest. So Ammermuller with a 1:27.355, 4/10ths quicker than anybody. Kelvin van der Linde is responding, but he needs a really good final sector to go back to the top of the times. But sector 1 was very good, 44.478. Sector 2 not far away either. And van der Linde looks tidy coming out of the final sector, looking much happier with the car than he did in free practice when he goes second. Another good lap, only a fraction quicker than his previous best, but it's a 1:27.732. 0.377 seconds away from Ammermuller's time. Here's the first attempt from Vincent Abril, who was quickest earlier on today. His best time then was a 1:27.4. We're into the 1:27.3s now, but this is going to be somewhere close. He's already 7th, he's gone 3rd. So 3rd, his first push lap was 7th, his first proper flying lap was a 3rd place, 1:27.740. So we've got 4 drivers in the 1:27.7 second bracket. Kelvin van der Linde, Vincent Abril, Arjun Mining, Christian Kleen has just come into the pits. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Those 4 drivers are split by 55 thousandths of a second, just over half a tenth of a second between 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Ammermuller, though, clearly up front, 0.37 seconds to the good. And Hubert Hout puts in his best lap to date, so 1:29.027. Mike Rockenfeller was not out there for quick times in free practice 1. Was only 19th quickest overall. Riding the curbs here, though, going on the attack in one of the 3 Team Ab Sportsline Audis, and looks like he's going to get a personal best lap. He's already higher up the order than he was earlier on today. 13th place. This could put him into the top 10 potentially. Just about does. 10th place. So that puts him ahead of Gotts and Buch and Winkelhock as well. Gains 3 places with that. So Ammermuller quickest. Nothing there between Kelvin van der Linde, Vincent Abril, Arjun Mining, Christian Kleen. Then we've got Lucas Auer in 6th. He's in the pits as well. Lawson is in the pits. Kelvin van der Linde in the pits. Timo Glock 8th. Daniel Hungerday 9th, Mike Rockenfeller 10th, Vincent Abril's finding a bit more time. He's got 2nd now, 1:27.656. But Ammermuller on the response here, 44.349 seconds. Here is the number 92 Porsche, absolutely flat out and flying, climbing to the top of the hill through the chicane at turns 11 and 12, the Vidal chicane. It's a very good second sector. It's not the absolute best, but he's only a few hundredths of a second away from the best second sector time, which he already holds. He's actually the quickest in all 3 sectors now, but he's not going to complete the lap. Comes into the pits instead. He was on a good lap there, and I think he could have got another 1:27.3 or 1:27.4. Probably would have been the second best lap of the session, but he opts to come for the pits instead. Coming out of the pits is the number 8 Mercedes of Daniel Hungerday, the sole Spaniard in the field, who at the moment has been bumped back down to 9th place. We've got 9/10 of a second covering the top 10 so far. Yet to see a competitive time from Christopher Haas in the number 12 Team Rosberg Audi, nor from Esteban Moot in the T3 Motorsports Lamborghini. Miriam Zendelli joining T3 Motorsport this weekend, not in DTM, but in the feeder series, the DTM Trophy, so they expanded their outfit, the single-seater Formula 2 racer, Zendelli. Adding to that, as out wide again goes Esteban Moot. We've seen quite a few drivers pushing it there to the limits. It's coming out of turn 5, that first complex sector onto the first real straight since the start of the lap. First gear corner at turn 1, which is going to be a real bottleneck at the start of the races this weekend. So personal best for Esteban Moot, but a 45.2. He's about 6/10 of a second away from the best. Lucas Stoltz, though, has set the absolute best second sector. Pretty good first sector. This will see him up to 3rd or 4th, or better. He's gone 1st. That was a really good final sector. The quickest we've seen, 20.9 seconds. And by 1/10 and a half, he's done it. So I thought he might be down. He was certainly down by 2/10 in that first sector. He did a 44.5. Ammermuller's first sector on his flying lap was a 44.3, but he found those 2/10 back on the second half of the lap and then some to go 0.154 seconds quicker. Now, a lap time has been cancelled for Esteban Moot for disrespecting track limits. I think we might see a few of these coming up, and I suspect it was coming out of turn 5. We saw him going way out wide, all 4 wheels beyond the white lines, so he lost that lap time, which would have been a personal best for him. He's in 18th place at the moment. Marco Vittman has crept up to 16th. Had a quick word with Marco between the 2 sessions as well. I said, what's clicked then? Have you found something different? I know you said qualifying was the big problem for the first couple of rounds of the championship, but the race pace was good. He said, no, we'll take it step by step, but we think we've got it working pretty well now. He said, but who knows from free practice? You never know what fuel loads people are running, what types of tyres they've got on, old tyres or new tyres. It's worth a mention, actually, the tyre situation these days in DTM is that for your first weekend in DTM, which applies to some of the guest drivers this weekend, you get a maximum of 5 sets of new Michelins. They have to last free practice, qualifying and the races. But that is only your first weekend in DTM. For the second and every subsequent DTM weekend, you only get 3 new sets of tyres, slick tyres, for practice, qualifying and the races. That's 2 practice sessions, 2 qualifying, 2 races, 6 sessions, only 3 sets of new tyres, and no more than 2 sets of tyres. Previously used tyres or previously assigned tyres can be used for free practice. You have to nominate 2 sets of tyres maximum for free practice, so you've really got to think about how you use those tyres. I did ask Marco as well, you know, when you get a bit of rain coming down like we did at the end of free practice, is there an argument to say it's worth, even though you're not going to get a quick lap time, worth being out there on slick tyres or just, if it does come down a bit heavy, you put the wet tyres on, just in case that happens in the race, just so you can get a feel for it. He said, yeah, absolutely, it's worth it from a driving point of view, but you're always thinking about tyres and tyre wear. You don't have a limit on the amount of wet tyres they use, but they all cost money, of course. Nico Muller on a good lap, personal best in the first 2 sectors in the number 51 team at Rosberg Audi. Here he is, coming out of Coca-Cola Curva and about to make his way over the line to come through with what should be his best lap so far. 5th place then for Nico, and that's a 1:27.7 as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers in the 1:27.7s now. And 5th place for Nico. Pretty pleased with that. 1:27.780. Could do with a good weekend here. Dearly love a repeat of the race victory he got around the Nürburgring sprint version of the circuit last year. Right, Moots, as long as he keeps the lap, doesn't get it taken away from him for track limits, goes 8th, his personal best lap. So Esteban's been creeping up the order. Now, he didn't do much in the first part of free practice 1, but then he was one of the drivers that strung a longer run together. And it was a very good long run as well. He did 9 laps at the end of free practice 2. And every lap was within 2/10 to 3/10 of a second of each other. Got his best lap in that run as well in the middle of the run, and his last hot lap on that long run was only about 2/10 down on his best. So the tyres he managed well, was looking after them pretty well. On boards with Max Gotts, making his way around the first corner and on the tail of Michel Ammermuller. I think he's gone past him now as Michel builds up speed. Thumping over the curbs here is Nico Muller. 2 wins at the Nürburgring last year, 1 on the Grand Prix circuit, 1 on the sprint circuit, and it could be another improvement here, maybe up into the top 3 if he holds it together through the final sector. Here he comes, next one over the line. It's going to be 1:27.722, so 6th place it was. Sheldon van der Linde, though, who's just ahead of him on the circuit, does improve. Easily his best lap of the day. He's just gone ahead of his brother, 1:27.702, only by 30 thousandths of a second. But it's the younger brother, but the more experienced DTM racer, Sheldon van der Linde, who's quickest. 21-year-old goes 4th. Kelvin van der Linde's down to 5th now. And Nico Muller 6th, even though that was his best lap of the session, because it is so tight. We've now got 6 drivers at the 1:27.7s. From Sheldon van der Linde in 4th, all the way down to Christian Kleen in 9th place. Those 6 drivers are split by just 95 thousandths of a second, less than a 10th between them. On board with van der Linde, looks the predicted lap time they can see from the graphic is that he, at the moment, he's 0.3 of a second down on what was his personal best lap last time around. You can see looks like he's having a conversation with the engineer, hand gesticulations, one hand off the wheel, so this isn't going to be a flyer. But the last one was very good. Actually, it wasn't far off. I mean, first sector was a couple of tenths down on the absolute best, and second sector's only about a 10.5 down. Nico Muller, who is one of the drivers who's very good at managing his tyres, very smooth driver, looks after the tyres. He's on a long run here, but still able to get personal best sector times. And that's another 1:27.7. He's great at that, Nico Muller. He can bang in lap after lap after lap on these long runs within hundredths of a second of each other. Liam Lawson is looking like he's going to improve. 44.6 and a 21.9 through the first 2 sectors. Christopher Haas has, as I say, started to clock up some laps now. He's 17th at the moment, but about to climb up the order. And what can Liam do here? He gets himself into the top 10. Liam Lawson, 127.917. So that's, I think, his first time into the 127 bracket today. Alex Albon staying out of the way on the climb up to the Vittman chicane in the sister Ferrari. Driver currently 5th in the championship. Yet to post a quick lap time in this session. 29.2 is his best. That's 2 seconds off the pace. See Ammermuller still out there. He's just got over the line. He's second quickest at the moment. Lucas Stoltz, who's quickest with a 127.201. He's in the pits. Vincent Abril, who is third, he's in the pits. Sheldon and Kelvin van der Linde, 4th and 5th, are both in the pits. And the other one for the top 10 that's just gone into the pits is Esteban Moot, the Belgian, in 8th place. Another lap from Nico on this long run. No, he bought it, heads for the pits, but he did a 4 or 5 lap run there. Christopher Haas about to improve. Here he comes. Ooh, all over the grass there, a bit too wide on the climb out of the chicane into Coca-Cola curve. He stays out on the lap. He was absolutely committed to it. He's committed there as well. Gets onto the curbs, coming out of Coca-Cola curve over the line, and unsurprisingly, it was a bit scrappy through sector 3. So he lost, well, he lost the best part of a second through sector 3. Otherwise, it would have been a good lap for Christopher. Still his best of the session, 128.4, but there was, I suspect, a 127 in there for him. So Christopher Haas getting used to these tyres as well, getting used to life in the DTM this weekend after this late call-up to replace Dev Gorba. Again, plenty of experience for him as a GT racer. 33-year-old from Kulmbach, which is in Bavaria, the south of Germany. He's been a winner in the Spa 24 hours, the Nürburgring 24 hours, and the Dubai 24-hour races. And raced in ADAC GT Masters, FIA GT3 European champion back in 2009 as well. So brings plenty of experience to the table. Christopher Haas, and as I say, went well this morning. Philip Ennis, one of the 5 different race winners we've had so far this season in DTM, goes through, puts his best lap of the session in. We've got Alex Albon's first flying lap, has put him up to 3rd place as well, with a 127.631. And Esme Hawkey is about to put her first proper lap of the session in. And is this going to be a low 128? Quite possibly so. Comes over the line now. Yeah, 128.1. So that is 15th place for now. And that's within 9/10 of a second of the best lap. Remember, Esme's getting used to these circuits, getting used to the car, and getting used to DTM. Never driven GT3 machinery before. Only came in a very late deal at the start of, just before the start of the season. And very good drive after spinning on the first corner at Zolder to come back with good pace in the race to finish 13th, just outside the points. So looking to pick up her first points of the season. Plenty of points for this young man. Liam Lawson is broken into the 127s in this session. So we've got a Mercedes top, Lucas Stoltz, as he was in the first part of the day, 127.201. Michael Ammermuller, 127.3 second, and Alex Albon third. Mercedes, Porsche, Ferrari, the top 3. Quite mouth-watering that, isn't it? These 23 drivers, 23 cars on the grid, and 7 different manufacturers for the first time in 3 decades. First time since 1987 that we've had so many different manufacturers on the grid. Back then you had the likes of Toyota in the mix as well. Sold a 1987 round of the DTM. Philip Ellis continuing to push on. He's crept up to 11th place with that lap. We've got, I think, every manufacturer is represented in the top 10 at the moment. Mercedes, Porsche, Ferrari, BMW, Audi, Lamborghini. They're all up there. So that bodes well for the way the balance of performance has been calculated. A very clever system they use in DTM, unlike a lot of other systems used worldwide. They use it based on simulation. All sorts of settings they can check on the cars. Keep tweaking it throughout the course of a season and a weekend as well. Timo Glock looking much more racing than he did in the first session. He's another driver looking for his first DTM points of the campaign. That's enough to put him at 14th that lap, 128.008. So now the top 16 covered by less than a second in the session. Hubert Hout, I would venture, is the one that hasn't put a proper attack lap in yet with a 1:29.016. He was quicker than that this morning. He's just behind Marcus Winkelhock, who's the driver that's really helped develop the electronic steering, the space drive steering as it's called. Fly-by-wire steering system that uses electronic wires and sensors. No mechanical connection between the steering wheel, the steering column and the suspension, the wheel movement of the cars. It's all done electronically. And I asked him about that. There he is in the number 99 AB Sportsline Audi, standing in for Sophia Flores this weekend, who is racing at the Le Mans 24 Hours, but will be back with us in DTM for the rest of the season. Marcus knows the system really better than anyone else. He debuted the system a couple of years ago, and he said to me, you know, even since it was first tested, the difference between how it's working now and how it worked then is day and night. And he said, I would say it's 95% the same feeling as driving a traditional steering system now. The idea is that it will get to the point where it's, you know, going to feel exactly the same. He said it sounds a bit dangerous, but the only difference, really noticeable difference now, is high-speed turns. Through high-speed corners, the reaction is much quicker when you put the input into the steering as it would than it would be compared to a traditional mechanical steering. So that's something slightly to get used to, but the system really is being developed and starting to come good now. As Esteban Moot gets himself into the top 6. Guess what he's done? A 1:27.7. Join the club. So 1:27.702 for Sheldon van der Linde in 5th. 1:27.731 for Esteban Moot in 6th. He's 1,000ths quicker than Kelvin van der Linde, who did a 1:27.732. He's 7th. Kelvin is 3,000ths of a second quicker than Nico Muller. 1:27.735 for Nico, and Nico is 1,000ths of a second quicker than Philip Ellis, 1:27.736. So the difference between Esteban Moot in 6th place and Philip Ellis in 9th place is exactly 5,000ths of a second. Now look me in the eye and tell me that the DTM doesn't provide close competition. Max Scott slowly working his way up the order as well. 12th place, another of the DTM race winners so far this season. All right, heading back out, that was a quick onboard view with Liam Lawson, the driver, second in the championship standings coming into this weekend. 17 minutes to go. Just worth a recap really on the standings. Kelvin van der Linde is the only driver to win twice this season so far. Once at Monza on his 25th birthday, and once last time out at Zolder. He's got 101 points. Liam Lawson, who you just saw, is second on 80 points. But there are potentially 56 points available this weekend. 21 points between them at the moment. Max Scott's is third, 72 points. He's been a winner as well this season. All three of them have won a race at least. And then we've got Marco Vittman, also a race winner this season now. Moved up to 4th place after a win and a 5th at Zolder. So he's on 67 points, 34 adrift, but only 5 points behind Max Scott's. 5th is Alex Albon, who's been really consistent this year. Points in every race but one, 2 podium finishes. He's got 54. That's 47 points away from the championship lead, and 49 points away from the championship lead, Philip Ellis, who got his first DTM win at the Lausitzring, and he's on 52 points. Mike Rockefeller is 7th, Lucas Auer is 8th, Nico Muller is 9th, Sheldon van der Linde, after a difficult weekend in which he only scored a 7th place finish, his only point scoring finish at Zolder, dropped to 10th place in the championship, but looking pretty good here, as Philip Ellis has gone up to 3rd place now, and Max Scotts has got up to 4th. Two of the drivers that I was talking about as race winners this season, both improving in the Mercedes. 1:27.5 for Ellis, 1:27.6 for Gotts. Well, 1 or 2 spots of rain on one of the camera lenses there, but I think that might have been something that's come and gone, because certainly on my side of the circuit, which is overlooking the exit from the final turn at Coca-Cola Curve and the run over the start-finish line, it is dry and bright over here. It's not to say it is everywhere around the circuit, because we did have at the end of free practice one rain on one side of the track and absolutely none on the other for a while. So Lucas Stolt still quickest from his earlier lap with that 1:27.201. Hubert Haupt started to make some progress now. He's up to 13th and on a potentially better lap here as well. Max Scott's with a good-looking lap this. Personal best in sector 2. One of the best times through sector 1. It's not the absolute best, but Gotts could break into the top 3 if he holds it together. He has gone 3rd quickest, so just ahead of Ellis, 1:27.502. Finds half a tenth or so to move ahead of Ellis, who's in the pits currently. So it's Mercedes, Stoltz from Porsche, Ammermuller, Mercedes, Gotts in 3rd, Mercedes, Ellis in 4th, Ferrari, Albon in 5th, and then Mercedes, who are up there in this session, 6th as well with Vincent Abril. Top BMW, well, the first time I've said this, Sheldon van der Linde going well in 7th place, Lamborghini of Esteban Moot in 8th, and then you have to go back to 9th place to find an Audi, which is Kelvin van der Linde in the Abt number 3 car, the Rosberg number 51 machine of Muller also in the top 10, but they're about half a second off the ultimate pace. And 2 of the drivers in that 1:27.7 second bracket. Quickest driver on the track at the moment is Max Gotts, but also going quickly at the moment with a 1:27.5 last time around. Lucas Stoltz is back out there. He's not quite as quick as he was, but he's pretty quick and one of the quickest drivers out there. There he is, the aerial shot following him through the start of another lap. So Stoltz impressive in that first free practice session and backing it up in this one too. The Tok Sport WRT car. He's 26 years of age, comes from Kirchen. He's been a regular in the GT Masters Championship for 7 or 8 years now. This year competing in the GT World Challenge Europe as well as in ADAC GT Masters, which is the German GT Championship, and finished 3rd in GT Masters last year with this team, with Tok Sport WRT, and 6th in the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup. That was actually with Hapt Racing, who he's up against this weekend. He's been a Blancpain GT Sprint champion and Silver Cup champion as well. Has raced in numerous categories like Porsche Carrera Cup, Formula 3 as well. Lucas Auer, who's fairly well up there for part of the first free practice session. He's only 16th at the moment in this one, in the Mercedes. But Lucas often doesn't really worry about getting super quick lap times in free practice and then suddenly appears near the top of the times once it gets to qualifying. The more experienced DTM racers, but again, not necessarily experienced in this, or as experienced in this type of car. His DTM debut 6 years ago now, back in 2015, and is a 5-time winner in DTM. 97 races in the championship, so he'll be celebrating as he goes very ragged and very wide there and kicks up the gravel trap as well. He'll be celebrating his 100th race start next time out, and what a place to do it, because that'll be in his home country in Austria as we go to Spielberg and the wonderful Red Bull Ring. So he's survived, but that was him again. A case of somebody running wide through coming out through turns 4 and 5. It's that short link straight, and definitely put a couple of wheels through the gravel there, Lucas Auer. Quite a few cars in the pits at the moment. Gotts, Hunkedaer, Albon, Abril, Muller, Glock, Haas and Winkelhock all in the pits currently. It's pretty tight, only 1.2 seconds covering the entire grid of 23 cars. So the track a bit quieter at the moment. Weather holding off for now. Quite what it'll do tomorrow, who knows? And Sunday looks even more unpredictable. It's Lucas Auer, who's been a winner here at the Nürburgring. He won one of his races at this track back in 2017. Finished on the podium in 2016 as well. And he's been pole position here 3 times as well. 2015, 2016 and 2017 as well, the Austrian. Nephew of ex-Grand Prix racer, multiple Formula 1 race winner and ITR chairman Gerhard Berger. Made a name for himself as one of the leading lights in Formula 3 racing at the start of his career, Lucas Auer. And certainly looked a key challenger on more than one occasion for the championship. His best season was in 2017 with Mercedes. Got 3 wins that year at Hockenheim, Lausitzring and here at the Nürburgring. 4 other podiums, or 4 podiums altogether that season, and finished, after leading it at one point, finished 6th in the championship in the end. He's up to 4th place now with the 1:27.5 as well. So got Gotts, Auer and Ellis all in the 1:27.5s. So Stoltz quickest with the 1:27.2, but then 1:27.3 for Ammermuller, And then 127.5s for Gotts in third, Auer in fourth, Ellis in fifth. 127.6s for Hunkerdea in sixth, Albon in seventh, Abril in eighth. And then half of them in the 127.7 bracket, Sheldon van der Linde, Esteban Moot in ninth and 10th. Here's another view of that moment earlier on in the lap where he went just a little bit ragged and wide there, just in front of Esme Hawke's Lamborghini. Survived, but showed the commitment that Lucas was giving it there, giving it plenty. It's great looking Windward Racing Mercedes. New team for Lucas. Last year he came back to DTM racing with BMW, but having spent most of his DTM career so far as a Mercedes driver. It's a very well respected racing driver, Christian Hohenadel, that runs the team. He's the team principal of Windward Racing, former GT3 world champion, and still pretty active as a racing driver. I was on the podium at the 2019 Nürburgring 24 hours. A very strong driver, of course, here with Lucas, and he's one of the drivers putting in a slightly longer run now. Good pace still, though, through the first sector, 44.8. Absolute best through that first sector is a 44.3. Here's Arjun Minor, history maker, first ever Indian driver to compete in the DTM. And for my money, it ain't going to be long before he's the first ever Indian driver to score points in the DTM. They're surely coming. Bad luck for him at Zolder. Wrong place at the wrong time in that first race pile-up, which put him out of Sunday. But he showed great pace all the way through the weekend at the Lausitz-Ring. Again, it was just an off-road excursion early on in the race, which cost him a chance of points, really. But he's definitely got the pace to compete at this level. And Arjun, who's still, I've said this a few times, seems to have been around for a long time, very experienced, but still a very young driver, still in his early 20s, really. So Arjun Minor, best time so far is a 127.788. Finds a tenth of a second and shoots up into the top 6. It's that close. Finds 2/10 of a second, he'll move into the top 3. Easier said than done. Making his way through turn 11 here. Going to stay out. Runs the curb, but nicely so. How's the lap looking for Arjun? 44.7 was good through the first sector. It's a personal best through the second. This, I think, is going to put him well up into the top 10 here, because it looked neat and tidy through the final sector. Arjun goes through. Is it an improvement? Wait for the timing screen to tell us that it is in terms of lap time, but it's only fractionally so. 127.745. So he finds a tiny bit of time, but it's not enough to move him up the order. As I say, if he finds another half a tenth of a second, he's going to find himself 3 or 4 places up the order. But good lap nonetheless from him. Stoltz heading for the pits. The Top Sport WRT squad, which is based at Quiddelbach, which is very close to the Nürburgring. Team principal is Sadi Emre Bouyaberak, and the team has been competing in rallying and racing since 2002. It's a very late entry, wasn't it, into the pit lane? Cuts across the lines there. Be a little bit careful doing that, which is why we're getting the replay. So he's in. But out to the Playboy liveried HRT Mercedes. Looks like he's about to be released back out to the circuit with just over 6 minutes left on the clock. And it's a quick in and out as well for the Top Sport Mercedes driver, still quickest in this session, Lucas Stoltz. He's done a long run. Is he going to go for another quick lap here, potentially? He rejoins. He's got time to do a few laps here. This year, the team competing in the GT World Challenge Europe, as well as the ADAC GT Masters Championship. They finished third in the GT Masters last year, what was their first attempt at the championship, which was pretty impressive for Top Sport WRT. Local team hoping for good things here at the Nürburgring. Right, Hubert Hout, who I noticed from walking around the garages and the paddock after free practice 1. Oop, stalls it. Practice getaway doesn't go particularly well. I noticed he's still pretty busy and active as running the team as well. He wasn't sort of just taking on the role of driver and letting everybody else do the work. He was talking with the engineers, getting the tools, carrying things around, making things happen. So it's very much a dual role for Hubert this weekend. It was great to see him here 30 years after his DTM debut. Still looking like a handy racing driver. That was the handy getaway first time out, but he's away now. Now, Christian Klein is also really impressed, and his first weekend and a bit of DTM after making the debut at Zolder. It's McLaren, 1:27.604 seconds now. That is good stuff for the German team, JP Motorsport, which got him into the top 10 in one of the qualifying sessions at Zolder. Christian Kleen up there again, the Austrian, 1:27.6 in the number 15 McLaren, as we go into the final 15 minutes of the session. As the two-time champion, 2014 and 2016 DTM title winner, Marco Vittman. Two champions in the field this year. We were hoping that Gary Paffett would be in for at least part of the season, but that's not now going to happen due to all the travel restrictions, having to miss the first two rounds anyway. So that news coming a week or so ago, that Max Buch will fill the Muka Motorsport Mercedes seat for the whole season now. There's Arjun Miney, whose last lap was 1:27.6, so he's putting a few runs in here, longer runs, but his lap times have remained very consistent. It's almost as good as his best, that. So Arjun Miney, who's 8th quickest overall, 1:27.620. He's put in, I think, 4 laps now within a tenth of a second of each other. We saw his first attempt, which was his best lap at the time, a 1:27.7. He's gone a tenth quicker than that now. And if he finds 5 thousandths or 6 thousandths of a second, he'll move into 7th ahead of Daniel Hunkadea. That's on Abril, who shone in the first session this morning. 10th at the moment, 1:27.6. Just about half a second away from the best time of the session. Christian Kleen's done a personal best through the first sector as well, 44.476 seconds. How far away is he? 4/10 of a second away from the absolute best time of the session, Christian Kleen. So could be something in this lap. I'm not sure he's going to be absolutely top of the times, but if he keeps it together, I think he could break into the top 3 or 4. There is Christian then, attacking sector 3 now. Grand Prix racer. Second sector was very good as well, 21.9 seconds. So I think this is going to be another quick lap. Quite whether he's able to edge forward a bit, we'll see in a moment or two. It's going to be close. Could be a good effort. This goes over the line, and it's enough to get him one more place. Up to 5th he goes, 1:27.535. Good effort from Christian, the 38-year-old. Had 49 Formula 1 starts. Raced for Jaguar, Red Bull, and the HRT team, which was a lower-ranking team at the time. Raced in the mid-2000s, 2004, 5 and 6, and came back for a season in 2010. His best ever result in Grand Prix racing was a 5th place finish at the 2005 Chinese Grand Prix with Red Bull. He's only contesting these 3 rounds this season with the JP Motorsport team, but I think there'll be a growing number of people hoping they come back for a full season next year, because the McLaren 720S 4-litre V8 turbo is a wonderful addition to the grid, and Christian has very much still got it, hasn't he? He's also competing in the International GT Open Championship this year, which he was a front runner last season, finished as the runner-up in the Pro-Am class last year in the championship. Right, Esteban Moot, who was one of the stars of Zolder with his overtakes. A youngster who has bagged top 10 finishes on a regular basis this season. 12th in the championship. Best result of 6th, which came at Zolder. He's pushing on. Max Buch has just improved to 15th. Christopher Haas has just improved to 17th. Daniel Hunkadea is on a good lap here as well, as you can see from the first sector time. And that could be an improvement for him. We've got a 44.419, even quicker from Christian Kleen. Does a 1:27.7 that time. He just lost out at the end of the lap, but Christian Kleen still rapid. Hunkadea's lap time, his best so far then, 1:27.573, moves him up to 7th place, just ahead of Arjun Miney. Alex Albon, who was 3rd, he's now down to 9th place. He's been in the pits for a little while. In the final 30 seconds, is he going to have one last roll of the dice to try and get a qualifying tight lap in here? Good first sector from Christopher Haas as well. He's going to shoot up the order with this lap. He's 17th at the moment. Marco Vittman, personal best in sector 1, but it's not an amazing first sector. Alex Albon goes through, 1:27.643. That is only 12 thousandths of a second away from his best. It doesn't improve him up the order. Marco Vittman's up, but only up to 16th. There's Christopher Haas in the Rosberg Audi as the flag comes out. And even though the lap started really well, it fell away a little bit in the middle. Not much, 127.8 is, I mean, it's only 0.6 of a second away from the best time of the session, but it's 17th because it's so close. So the flag out on the second free practice session, which was a fully dry session. There was a threat of 1 or 2 spots of rain in the middle of the session, but never really materialised. So mostly dry session in free practice 1, albeit that rain coming in the last couple of minutes. Fully dry this time around, and higher track temperature as well. The track temperature is pretty high, 28 degrees. The air temperature, it's a warm day, not a hot day, but a warm day at nearly 19 degrees. Marcus Finkelhock ending the session last with a 128.471. So top of the times, having gone really well in the first free practice session, but topping the times with the quickest time of the day, Lucas Stoltz for Mercedes, 127.201 seconds. So TalkSport WRT, the local team, quickest of all on their first day in DTM. 1.5 tenths quicker than Michael Ammermuller, who was 4th in free practice 1, 2nd in free practice 2. Much better time from Max Gotts in this session. He finishes 3rd. Lucas Auer up there in 4th. Christian Klein impressing again in the McLaren in 5th. And Philippe Ellis rounding out the top 6. So the sunshine beating down upon that last session before we head into qualifying tomorrow morning. The qualifying due to start at 10:20 local time tomorrow. We'll be on air 5 minutes before that to talk you through the session, the 20-minute session, which will then lead us to the first race of the weekend, which will start just after 1:30, 1:33 to be precise, local time tomorrow afternoon. The traditional start time for DTM races these days. Coverage will start at 1:15 local time, and similar timetable for Sunday as well, 10:15 local time, slightly earlier, 5 minutes earlier for qualifying 2, but the race will be at the same time on Sunday for what will be the halfway stage of the season, rounds 7 and 8 of the 2021 DTM coming up. Winkelhock was hoping to go out again and then stopped and then has got stranded, so the AB Sportsline team looking to push him back. Winkelhock saying this morning, or early afternoon rather, in the press conference, that it was pretty cool to be back with AB Sportsline. He really respects the team. He actually raced for them for 2 races back in his early days in DTM in 2007. So Luca Stoltz, top of the times, 127.201 seconds. Michael Ammermuller, 2nd, 127.355. And Max Gotts, 127.502. The driver 3rd in the championship, 3rd in the session. Lucas Auer, 4th. Christian Klein in 5th. And Philip Ellis in 6th. And Daniel Hunkerdea in 7th. All in the 127.5s. 127.6 for Arjun Maini in 8th. A very similar lap time for Albon and Abril in 9th and 10th. Sheldon van der Linde ends up as the best BMW in 11th, with Esteban Moot rounding out the top 12. And Kelvin van der Linde, not a great day at the office for the championship leader. He's there in 13th place, but ahead of Liam Lawson, his closest championship rival, who was only 19th in the session. That's it then from the Nürburgring, from me, Chris Hartley, and the team. Thanks for watching. We'll speak to you again tomorrow.